Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who helps it grow with Lance Sexton. Lance, good to see you as always. Unfortunately, John Riosti has a deadline. He will not be here. Lance, I know you and I enjoy listening to Inside Washington stuff with John, but not today. Not today.
Bob, always love hearing John's insight on what's going on. Bob, I want to say hi to all my friends at Malk. This is the first Malk that I have not physically been at in 13 years, Bob.
Malk is Mid-America Lenders Conference, and where is it located this year?
It's in Houston, Texas, Bob. I had a health issue that kept me from going, which, by the way, it's cleared up now, so I almost could have went, but I will be addressing some of the people at the conference this afternoon.
Oh, good. On virtual?
Yes.
And what is your topic?
We're going to talk about equity injection this afternoon, Bob.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, good for them. How many people do you know? I think they ended up with, what, 400, 500 plus people?
I would have to believe that typically Malk will have somewhere north of 400. So I'm sure they have they had a Malk earlier or last year, previous year, not at all. So I think there's probably some robust anticipation of getting back together like that.
Yeah, very good. Very good. We have a lot of news. Let's go. First of all, we did a webinar on this, and I wanted to reinforce this because a lot of people are don't know the answer. So SBA requires a debt service coverage ratio of 1.15 for all SBA 7A loans. Lance, let's start with, what is a DSCR? How do you
debt service coverage ratio, Bob, and typically it is your net income plus some of the non-tangible expenses like depreciation, amortization, but you just recast the cash flow, divide it by the proposed debt payments. And, this is kind of an interesting question, Bob, because for 43% of you guys, the number is correct on SBA loans over $350,000. But on some of the SBA small loans, it doesn't have to be at 1.15. It can be at basically 1-to-1. I think, Bob, the challenge that we've run into with debt service coverage ratio is something you and I talked about on the webinar the other day.
Whoa. You're going off script. I already know where you're going.
Okay.
I'm going to hold you up right there.
But the answer is not, the key word in the poll question, not all SBA 7A loans require a 1.
And we'll pay attention to this. We've heard rumblings that they're going to, for the smaller loans, they're going to further streamline it. I know SBA is very interested in what the PayPals and the fintechs are doing, where they're able to fund immediately. Our friend Ami Kassar has said when he's talking with his people, if there's a choice between getting money tomorrow in the account versus money a month down the road through SBA, they don't care what the interest rate is. They want the money in the account to cover whatever problem they have in terms of expenses. SBA is very aware of that, and they're working to make that more user-friendly. I saw a piece of marketing the other day. It came in through, it was a direct mail. It said, hey, apply and we'll get an answer back to you within 15 days. Well, that's not exactly a selling point these days, gang.
Well, and Bob, I think that's something every SBA participant lender has to think about. How do you more efficiently deliver? In my experience, Bob,
deliver it quickly and prudently. Absolutely.
Yeah, the answer, the small business owners want to know yes, no. That's the most important thing, is how quickly can you say yes?
Mm-hmm.
If it takes a week or two to fund, that's okay, as long as you can give them a quick, prudent yes or no.
All right, now we're going to ask where Lance was going, is how do you calculate the debt service coverage ratio.
Oh,
Go ahead and let's see. We got the financial statements with projections, 58% 3-year average. If we don't have a profit in 2021, and go ahead, Lance, I'll let you.
your cash flow could be, if you've got an existing business, your cash flow used in your debt service coverage ratio can come from historic tax returns. The cash flow numbers can also come from generated financial statements. But they also, you can have a small business who has not shown the ability to debt cover or meet debt service coverage ratio requirements, but they're making some changes.
Yes.
And they have projections that will show the ability to meet the debt service coverage ratio requirements. So there are multiple ways to calculate the cash flow that's used in debt service coverage ratio.
The two takeaways, and by the way, this is a shameless plug for my webinar on Wednesday. 3 years historical tax returns seems to be an industry benchmark. You can base it off financial statements as long as you also base your conventional loans on that. So you need to be consistent with your SBA and non-SBA portfolio. With 20, if you have someone who had a loss in 2021 based on COVID, and that I believe would be reasonable to say, okay, we're going to go back and see what they did pre-COVID, as long as you can show or make the argument they're back at their old levels. But cash flow, SBA delegates quite a bit to the lender and how they want to do it. And they're not telling you how to do it. They're saying we want these certain guidelines, but they're not telling you what to use. That's a prudent lending decision. Hey, go ahead, Lance.
Good question on cash flow and debt service coverage calculations, Bob. With this golden age of business acquisitions, I'd like to know how people are calculating the debt service coverage ratios on those, because you've got historic financial statements from a seasoned operator who's selling to somebody who may or may not be a seasoned operator. How do you make adjustments there?
It's very, very excellent point. It's interesting. Last month, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada has been very active in, she's on the committee, she's been very active on franchise transparency. She has heard stories of people taking their 401k, investing in a franchise, and then it isn't what they expected and they lose their 401k. And that's obviously an issue. The other side of the coin is you can take your 401k, Lance, and put it into Bitcoin and lose that as well, or you can put it into another, in the stock, specific stock you can lose as well. So that is a risk-based system on that. Highlights that she has, I believe we have the testimony attached to that. 13% of SBA's total loan portfolio comes from franchise in 2019, more than 7,000 loans to franchise owners. So she's very much in that. She wants two things to happen. She wants SBA to disclose the default disclosure rate. I don't think this will pass, but that information is there. And she wants more transparency. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. None of us can argue against transparency, but she's saying because of requirements, the franchisors are hedging some of their language and they're not giving a full report to what is happening.
Well, the one thing about franchise lending, Bob, and over the years that I've, small business owners, the people that jump into a franchise, they need to do their due diligence. And they need, Bob, probably to reach out to somebody else. It could be their banker, could be their accountant, to say, look at this and tell me what you think.
Talk to other franchise. Go on the boards. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, Go down the unhappy franchise.
Well, the other thing, Bob, what is a franchise disclosure document? Well, to an extent, it's a marketing tool.
Right.
Bob. And I know they have to tone stuff down, but several examples in my career where I saw a trend of people cashing in their 401k and jumping into a franchise that they thought was going to take the place of their current employment. And I'm just like, okay, you're making $90,000 a year today, and you're going to jump in this franchise that does $250,000 a year. How in the world did you ever expect you'd make $90,000 a year from that?
It's not going to happen.
So I think that this is something that someone taught me very early. Every small business needs 4 advisors. They need a legal advisor, they need a banking advisor, they need an accounting advisor, and they need a strategic planning advisor. And those are people they may hire or contract with, but they need people to help them look at and evaluate.
Yeah. No, and that's
things like franchises.
Again, some of the best homework you can do is just get in the car, park across the street from one of these concepts, and start writing down what's happening. So
well, and Catherine Cortez Masto, I hope I pronounced that correctly. I do believe there should be more transparency, but you can't compensate people for making a dumb decision. And I apologize for saying it that way, but that's as simple as it is. I've looked at franchises for 35 years, Bob. Not all of them are good.
Comment, please refer to the local SBDC as one of those 4 resources.
Yes,
very good.
Absolutely. And,
I would like to exit another point. They need an insurance advisor. Very good. Both
yes,
of those.
nice.
We had a commitment from Senator Masto in of April of 2020. She was going to be our keynote speaker at our luncheon for a lot of our winners. I don't remember much of what happened in April 2020, other than I know we did not have that event. So we are going to have, our plan is to have a lunch in Las Vegas in the fall for all our previous winners. Anybody who's won, just come and we'll have lunch. I think we're coordinating with her schedules as well to have her come and talk about this, and that would be interesting.
Yeah.
We will let the industry know that is possible. It looks like, I don't know, I wasn't going to do it last year. It looks like the fall may be okay. I'm still not quite there yet, so we'll see what happens. Hey, we talked about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund on Friday. I don't think we need to beat that up anymore, but it's there. And what do we have on this, Joseph? $500 million to grants to minor league sports teams. What is that about? Who did this, Delaney or Joseph?
This is Delaney.
Yes, that would be me.
It's in the house. Delaney, what's going on here?
So this is from the Senate, Chairman Cardin and Senator Wicker, I believe, from Mississippi. Back in August, they tried to introduce legislation that would refund the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, and recently they are encouraging the passage of more legislation. It would continue to support restaurant revitalization, but it would support other hard-hit businesses such as gyms, minor league sports teams who saw revenue loss during, seasons they had to be closed.
No, you're right, and that they're legitimate businesses and they're important to the community. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, these are just a bunch of businesses that were neglected and saw revenue losses and didn't get opportunities for support the way that some others might have.
Good, very good. And what is this, do you think any of this has a chance of passing, Delaney?
I'm not sure. I believe this was already shot down previously, but I think with the House passing their bill, this is kind of lit a fire under this again, which is why they're, encouraging it.
Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, a lot of these little proposals are still floating around. Little, $2 billion. I mean, it's not little, but all these proposals are floating around, and we'll see what happens, which tells me Congress is still concerned about what's going on, and we all read the news on what may happen. So this is, they're trying to head off certain problems with cash infusions, Lance.
Well, but the problem that we run into, and I had this conversation with a small business owner at church yesterday, and we're chatting about it, and, you know, we've already put a ton of what we call fund money in the economy. It's created inflationary pressure and rising interest rates, at least our perspective indicated that. So I realize some of these categories of business need money, but do we still need money put into our system? Will that defeat, you know, the Fed's proposing to increase interest rates, what, 4 to 6 times this year? Injecting another 200 billion, 300 billion into the economy probably isn't going to help inflation.
It's interesting. I don't know when this happened. I wasn't paying attention, but Rand Paul is now the ranking member of the Senate Small Business Committee. And most of you know who he's very much of a economic budget hawk. And he said, hey, we've thrown in $6 trillion. I think it's time we stop some of this stuff. So we'll see what happens in the future. But we want to talk about that. I have been told not to. I'm going to shut up because I think for those of you who've seen my reporting know what I'm going to say. I'm going to turn this over to Delaney, and I will refrain from making. Delaney, bail me out. Go.
Oh gosh, what am I bailing out?
You're telling us where Carrie Agee et al. Are currently residing.
Okay, so they are all currently in Lexington, I believe.
No, she's in Lexington. They're all in separate prisons.
Oh, they're all in separate prisons. Well, Carrie Agee is at least in Lexington. She's supposed to be released at the end of 2026.
And Joseph, you do the full, all 5 of them? There we go. Kelly Isley's Pekin is in Illinois, that I know, I think.
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine, but she's also being released in 2026.
Well, I had to look this up. West Virginia. Chad is in Morgantown, which is West Virginia. And Matthew is in Morgantown also. They're in the same prison. Usually they break them up. They must be in the same prison. Maybe there's more than one in Morgantown. Anyway, that's the update, and that's the release dates. And that's hard. That's not a pleasant transition for these people.
No, they'll serve their time and they'll come out. But the problem, we talk about this on Fraud Friday a lot, Bob, is what do they do when they get out? They've spent their entire career in small business lending. Well, they're not going to be able to participate in that anymore. So what's the next step? That's the difficult thing.
Well, and I think as a society, I know as you know, there is life after death in some of these situations, and there are. It's interesting that what SBA is doing. Also, I'm saying it's not certainly doesn't apply to these people, but with some of their recent initiatives on, hey, we have an issue with convicted felons and getting jobs and starting businesses, and maybe they should be. I think that is a societal trend. So hopefully there is a concept of forgiveness and rehabilitation. And I certainly hold no animosity toward any of these people. It's a sad situation all the way around. But they you know, if you do the crime, you got to serve the time.
Well, and there will be a lot of SBA borrowers in the PPP program that join them most likely.
Yes, and hey, real quick, we got this up on Amazon, and we've got some orders. Thank you very much. And Amazon prints it. I love this. They print it, they ship it, they take the money, and it's on your desk in 2 or 3 days. This SOP completely mirrors the SBA one, and we priced it at a point where it's cheaper to buy it than to download it, print it, and do that. Anyway, let's see. We have Lance, real quick. We have our cash flow webinar on Wednesday. We're going to do that. Then Lance, what are you doing next week, the following week?
We're going to talk about how to properly prepare a purchase demand kit for an SBA 7A loan. And Again, I know you guys have listened to me for years saying it's going to be the year of servicing. It's going to be the year of liquidation. And I'm still singing the same song, Bob. I think we're going to have more struggling SBA borrowers during 2022 and 2023. You need to be able to understand how to put together a 10-tab package so you can get your institution paid on that SBA guarantee.
Yeah, for some of these borrowers who were, they got the 2 cash infusions and life, which solved a lot of sins. That spigot isn't coming back. And
yeah, your 11-12 payments for an extended period of time, PPP loans, idle loans. I mean, I talked to a borrower the other day, Bob, who had round 1, round 2 PPP, idle, and also had an existing SBA loan that they got CARES Act payments on. Oh, that's a lot of support.
and throw a student loan on top of it. But all that's going away, and that's when we calculate your cash flow. We're doing it. Hey, interesting conversation, Lance. Thank you very much for joining us, Delaney. Thank you for your input. Thank you for joining us for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great day.